Symbols in literature are a big part of figuring out the themes. So today we're going to look at how to identify symbols, we're going to look at the definition of symbols, and then we're going to look at a couple common symbols that are in literature, and I'll give you some examples. So as we go through this video, take some notes so that you have something to refer back to later. So first of all, let's go over the definition. The definition of a symbol is any object, action, place, word, color, and sometimes even characters that signify something different from the original meaning. So this means it is something usually tangible or concrete. That means we could reach out and touch it, that represents or stands for something else. It means something completely different. So an example of this in the real world could be the colors red, yellow, and green. When we're driving, we see a red light and we know that means to stop. We know that green means go. We know that yellow means slow down or maybe speed up, depending on how you drive. We also know that we can use that symbol in conversation. So if you asked if you could do something and I said, you have a green light, you would know that that means, yes, I can do that. So that's an example of symbolism in the real world. We need to look at symbolism in literature because it helps us figure out the theme and the overall message of the story. So why don't authors just say it instead of making it more difficult and hiding everything in symbolism? The reason is because it brings more meaning to a story and it makes the story more interesting. It makes it more captivating if we have to work a little bit to find out. We can make ideas, or authors can make ideas more universal if they use symbolism than if they were to say it literally. If they say it literally, it might end up only appealing or applying to some people, where symbolism gives us some grace. It gives some room to be a little bit more universal, a little bit more general. But the biggest thing is that symbols help create the theme. So we need to look at how you can find symbols in a piece of literature. So some things to look for are descriptions, colors, numbers, objects, names, especially if the names seem unusual. Those are going to all be symbols. So look at the descriptions of things. Keep in mind that everything that an author includes in their story is a choice. Things don't just happen randomly. Things aren't just in there randomly. Every single word is a choice. Every single object is a choice. Every single character is a number of choices. So a lot of times if there's something that's very described in detail, it usually has some kind of symbolism going along with it. So let's look at an example. Another thing you should look for is repetition. And in Disney movies, Disney princesses almost always wear blue. Blue is the color of calmness and truth and integrity and peace. And if we look at all these Disney princesses, we see that they have all of those virtues. They have all of those characteristics. So if you think about someone like Elsa, she doesn't necessarily have peace or calmness, but she's all about the truth and her integrity. Or if we look at somebody like Cinderella, she is definitely like the truth and peace and calmness. So we see these characters and we see them in blue, and we are supposed to be attracted to them and like them because they have all of these characteristics. And that's why Disney would put them all in blue. Weather always means something as well. So if we think about The Lion King and weather, thunderstorms happen when, like, right before Scar and Simba are gonna fight and right before Simba kills Scar. And there is a big thunderstorm, and thunderstorms, as we know, usually are indicators of violent emotions or danger, which is definitely something that is happening here. This is the part where Scar's getting really amped up. He wants to kill Simba. He's mad that Simba came back. So we have all of these violent emotions, and the weather is reflecting that. Weather always means something because weather can't just happen in a book or a story. it has to be written out. It has to be described. There's a whole tone and mood that go along with weather. So weather is a huge symbol. Um, Another example from The Lion King is after Simba kills Scar, the thunderstorm kind of weakens a little bit, and it's more of a rainstorm. Rain, on the other hand, can mean cleansing. It can mean that it's washing away all of the sins or washing away all of the bad things that have happened. And we know that that's what the rain stands for in this part of The Lion King, because this is the part Scar is gone now, Simba is in charge, and the drought's over, everything's getting better, and we know that the movie ends and everybody's happy. Yay! We also have to look at turning points in a story. So important symbols are usually in the turning point, which the climax or some other dramatic shift. So if we look at Elsa in Frozen, so from the beginning of the story, she has these gloves that are supposed to contain her powers. Her dad tells her to conceal, don't feel. So basically the gloves conceal her feelings as well. In our dramatic climax, she is without her gloves. So in this story, it's not so much that the symbol is there, it's missing this symbol that's been there the whole time. So her gloves are gone and there's a huge blizzard, chaos ensues because she's not wearing her gloves anymore. The gloves help send the message that when people cover up their emotions for too long, it can lead to really dramatic consequences. So having this or not having this major symbol in the climax is huge in this story and tells us exactly what one of the main themes of the story is. I added a sheet for you on Schoology that goes over some of the main or most common symbols that show up in literature. This is going to be a great resource for you to use so that as you're reading your story, you can go through and look to find what some of the symbols in your story are. So make sure that you are using this. Keep in mind that this is not an exhaustive list, so there are definitely some other symbols that might show up. This is not like the be-all end-all either. If you see winter in your story, but you don't think it represents death, emptiness, hardship, or stagnation, you think it represents something else because they're showing winter in a really fun, nice, friendly way, don't be afraid to take your own interpretation of it. Everything in literature is up to your own interpretation. As long as you can back it up, you can be right. So don't look at this and be like, oh, well, I was completely wrong because I don't think it means that. Your take on it is your take on it. So don't be afraid to go off of this sheet a little bit if your ideas don't match up completely. This is just a jumping off point.